James is a great player. I understand why they're talking about the Cavs. And then for one game, they're saying the Cavs are going to win the East, it's guaranteed, and all these things. And they never talk about the other basketball teams in the East. So I'm going to show some love for the other teams because they're making it sound like LeBron's going to cakewalk through the East. And I don't really think so. I think there's a good possibility the Cavs don't even come out of the East. Now I'm going to talk about certain teams that they could face that I think is going to give them trouble, where I think LeBron's going to lose, and the Cavs. First thing first, the way it might match up, I don't think the Cavs want to see the 76ers and a young Joel Embiid in the paint, shooting threes and doing everything he can, because I don't think the Cavs have a matchup to match up with Joel Embiid. And on top of that, if they think they have to go double team him on some of the moves that he has to do, they're gonna leave a lot of good open shooters right now because they just went and signed Barinelli. They have JJ Redick. They have a lot of good talent, especially with Ben Simmons driving and attacking the paint. And you know that boy should have been an all-star. And I ain't even Australian, but the man should have been an all-star. I said he should have been an all-star over Kristaps Porzingis. He should have been an all-star over Dragic, but that's a different thing. So I think Philly is a problem. I had the Bucks as a problem too with Jonas. And the reason why I had the Bucks as a problem is because they got back Jabari Parker. And Jabari Parker with Jonas and Chris Middleton. I looked at that big three and said, boy, I don't know how you're going to guard them boys. With Eric Bledsoe, Brogdon, I just look at the Bucks as a very, very dangerous sleeper team that if you see them this year, they're going to be a problem. I just think that the problem for the Bucks is they still need that one center just to block some shots, get some boards, and take up some paint for them defensively. And if they ever get that, it's a problem for the NBA because I think the Bucks are a problem. I think when you look at Jonas is the type of player that you can put on LeBron James, and then LeBron has to go back and try to defend him. And those are the type of players that have beaten LeBron James in a playoff series. When you look at when LeBron has lost, he's lost to guys like Kawhi Leonard and Sean Marion and Andre Iguodala, guys that played a little bit of offense, played a little bit of defense, and gave him problems. And if they had a guy like Jonas who can play some O and play some D on LeBron, it can be a problem for the Cavs, where I think Cavs are going to be in some trouble. Another team that no one never talks about, and I just love the acquisition that is made, is the Miami Heat. Dwayne Wade is going to the Hall of Fame. And Dwayne Wade wasn't happy in Cleveland. He wanted to go and be in Miami. That's where his heart was. And when you look at Miami with them big man, with Hassan Whiteside, and they got a young rookie named Bam Adebayo, and you look at the Heat are an organization. The Heat are a team where they've had the most players lead their team in scoring. So it's somebody different. You can't step on the court and say, oh, we got to get this superstar, because everybody can score. Everybody can get buckets. So you don't know where it's coming from. And when I look at the Heat and they're in a 7-game series, I think they can give a lot of teams problems. And they're a sleeper team where you could trip up and fall and bang your head. Now I'm going to talk about my Raptors. And when it comes to Toronto, nobody in the States, especially in the United States, is talking about the Raptors. And they keep on bringing up old stuff, and stuff like that. Now, there's two Raptors that I've seen in the playoffs. I've seen the one Raptor team that got swept by the Brooklyn Nets. That was Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, and they were young and they were rookies. They got swept by the Washington Wizards. That was a team that was very offensive oriented and wasn't defensive minded, because the defensive minded was Dwayne Casey. He had guys like Lou Will and Gravis Vasquez, and those guys weren't really the greatest defenders. So yeah, they got swept by the Wizards. But then there's another Raptor team in the playoffs that people don't mention, and they kind of get a little bit of amnesia about, when they went and took out the Pacers in a 7-game series, when they went and got Paul George. Then they took out another 7-game series, and they went and beat Dwayne Wade and the Heat and stuff like that. And then when you thought, oh, they're down 2-0 against Cleveland, and they were going back home to Toronto, and Stephen A. Smith was like, hey, they're getting swept, they're not good, they're not this and that, and then bam, bam, they won 2 games in a row. The series was tied 2-2 and it went back to Cleveland. They lost, and then eventually that happened. Now, people kind of remember a little bit too about last year, and they say, well, DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, they disappear. Well, you got to also talk about the strategy that's used against Toronto in those games. When they played against the Bucks last year, the Bucks went and stepped on the court and said, we're going to double team DeMar DeRozan. And then I think it was game 2 or game 3, they went and changed it up again and said, we're not only going to double team DeMar DeRozan now, we're going to double team DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry to get the ball out of their hands and force somebody else to shoot for them. When Dwayne Casey made an adjustment and went smaller and put Ibaka as a center and put Norman Powell into the starting lineup, the whole entire thing changed. The Bucks couldn't double team anybody, and that's when Toronto was very successful. Cleveland watched that in the Bucks series and copycatted the exact same strategy. And especially with Kyle Lowry being hurt in game 2 of the Cleveland series, they can focus on double teaming DeMar DeRozan and forcing him to pass it to certain guys. And last year, he would have passed the ball to Corey Joseph, who's a great mid-range shooter, but not a great three-point shooter. And he was passing it to guys like PJ Tucker, whose three-point shot is better now in Houston and is rock solid, but not really the greatest three-point shooter. So when I look at this Toronto Raptor team, the philosophy that Dwayne Casey has installed in that team, in that roster, with the three-point attempts gone 10 times more up, I'm looking at the Raptor team and saying, boy, I don't know if you guys are watching this, but they're dangerous. When you got Jonas Valanciunas shooting threes and being a stretch 5, with Ibaka being a stretch 4 shooting threes, all you just did is gave more driving lanes to DeMar DeRozan. And then DeMar DeRozan is such a willing passer this year, learning from the guys like Harden and Westbrook and LeBron that attack the paint, where he goes and says, if you leave your guy, I know I can pass this ball out, and they're hitting threes. And they're making it rain. And they got the best bench squad in the league. And when you look at Player of the Week awards, James Harden has the most Player of the Week awards. But he's tied. You know who he's tied with? He's tied with DeMar DeRozan. Now, when you look at that team, I'm telling you, it is dangerous. And if you're going to play against Cleveland, I think a weakness that Cleveland has is they don't have a center. Like Tristan's my dog. It's Toronto in the building. And we love Tristan around here. But he's a power forward playing center. Mad Hart, Matt Bortz. And if he's got to play Jonas Valanciunas, he's going to be in some problems. I'm telling you. And I'm looking at Cleveland. I'm like, I don't think it's a cakewalk. I remember last year, I think they only lost like 1 game or 2 games. And I was like, that's nice. This is not happening this year. You're going to lose some games. You're going to go and bump your head and stub your toe. And I think if LeBron gets certain matchups, he not only is he going to stub his toe, he's going to be watching the finals, and he ain't going to be in it. I know y'all hyping up Cleveland versus Golden State. Golden State some issues too. And I like the Warriors, and the Warriors are still the favorites. But if some way, somehow, if I believe if they see OKC, OKC's going to give them some problems. Richie Rich in the building. I'm out. Peace.